Hi, I'm Pat Havoc. I am from Hamilton, the Hammer. Born and raised, live and die. And currently I am playing, well, currently I ain't playing with anybody else after the Letdowns.ca. What got me into punk music? When I was a wee lad, I was watching CHCH one night, and I was sitting with my mom, and we were living down on Bristol Street, and you might know Bristol Street from David Bailey, I think, references it in What We Salvage. So we're in there and we're watching the news, and they were talking about this horrific scourge that was overtaking Britain, and it was punk rock, and they showed all the kids with the ripped clothes and the safety pins, and my mom looks at me and says, "Don't ever, don't ever do that, ever." And I was like petrified, right? Like it was the 11 o'clock news on a Sunday night. And I thought, oh my God, like this is horrible. But then there was just something about it too that was kind of cool, right? So that kind of percolates and boils over or whatever. And I started going to school, high school on the East Mountain, and there was this kid named Donnie Kless, and you might know Don because he plays in the Mariners now. He's played in 1,000 other different Hamilton bands, and we were getting music together for a big party that was going to be taking place. But Don was pretty smart because he was going to make cassettes. He wasn't going to bring the 100 albums, of which 10 would come back. So we went over to his place, and he put on, his brother was involved in, I don't know, like he was an A&R guy for some music label. And anyways, he started playing all this stuff one day at lunch, and he put on like Johnny Thunders. Oh, that's kind of cool. And as soon as he put on the Pistols, I literally, like, this hair stood up on my arms, and it was a lot of hair. And he just said, "Oh, you like that?" And I said, "That is friggin' amazing. What is this?" So, "Oh, if you like this, you're going to like this, this, and this." And it was literally, we ended up booking off the entire afternoon, and he was just, these are the Ramones, this is the Clash, and it was just this complete introduction to all the friggin' stuff that was going on at that time. And I thought, wow, this is it. This is friggin' it. And the next day you go to school with the skinny tie, and you find alternative press and everything like that. And it was just, oh, okay, this is it for me. But it wasn't so much just the loud angst. It was just everything, right? And it was just this sonic friggin' wave of, I need to be part of this. And yeah, I'll credit Don for sure for that introduction, and whoever was working at CHCH. I think it was Tom Charrington. That's how many years ago it was. I got a few main influences, I guess. When I was coming up and I started to get into the music, there was this girl that I'd gone to college with, and Susie Slash, because everybody had names, and Gordo. They were part of the original 100 Punks, and it was just, I don't know if you've ever heard of the 100 Punks. They just used to kind of run around and get the snot knocked out of them on a pretty regular basis downtown. But she'd introduced me to some of these bands, and she says, "Well, if you like Hamilton music, you have to go check out this band." And it was Forgotten Rebels. So that was the first punk show that I got to go to, and I thought, "Oh my God, this is friggin' cool, right?" So we're there, and Mickey knows her and comes over, starts talking to her, starts talking to me, and then he gets up and starts doing his thing, and he's proud, unrepentant Hamilton, man. Like, you're not going to get more Hamilton guy. Even when he was rock and roll and everything, he's still Hamilton. He's Mickey, and he'll make you laugh, and he can write, and he can sing like Neil Young. Like it's an acquired taste. If you love the way he sings, you love the way he sings. And I love the way he sang. And I think, to me, it was just that showmanship, that idea that punk rock isn't 100% political, and you can you can have some fun with it, right? And I think what was really friggin' awesome was he had that ability to make you think by making you laugh, right? So you laugh and you think, and it's kind of that double entendre kind of thing about what he could do. And he could be as dirty and vulgar as everybody else, but the thing is, he could write a great song. And that whole Rebels era, from, you know, In Love with the System to current, they're huge influences. Mickey actually produced the first album that I did with the Wet Spots, and that was how much is it going to cost us, Mickey? It was, well, buy me a cup of tea. Okay, well that's a good deal. So that's what it cost us to do that first album. And there was when all that was kind of going on, and I like to dress up when we go out because we're playing shows, right? It's a show, and you're doing a performance. So I don't want to kind of get up and when I was pumping gas, that's my job. I'm pumping gas. If I'm going to put on a show for you and you're going to pay money to come in and see me in a bar, I'm going to dress up. I'm going to put a little bit of effort in, right? When I did some work for the CFL at one point, and I used to go in, dress like I was behind the scenes, and the guy said to me, "Can you wear a suit? You're going to be on camera." And I said, "Why would I do that?" And he said, "Why wouldn't you do that, son?" I thought, you're right. Why wouldn't I? So again, it just kind of reinforces the point, right? So there's George Black from the CFL. Thank you very much. He was just one of those ones that kind of just let me know, right? And I'd say my mom, my dad at different points. My dad was a crooner in the 50s. I got, he never really talked about it, but as he gets older, I see these pictures of him playing with the big bands, right? And it's friggin' cool, He's sitting there at the mic and he's crooning. He's not like me. He's not screaming and jumping around and shit like he was doing it. And my mom was just scary supportive, like, here you go. You want to go do that? Yeah, go do it. Enjoy, right? So that's and I think if you want to talk about kind of the main influences and other things, just the Hamilton music scene too. Really, kids, we used to get kind of so down on everybody and so down on everything. And when we were coming up, people loved to hate on anybody that was doing well. That was just the way it was, right? And, those guys are dicks. They turn their back on. And anytime you got like a modicum of success, somebody was ready to tear you down. And what I'm really happy with the scene, and I don't know if it's just a maturation or people understanding that, strength in numbers, right? So you've got places where people actually, hey, I'll come and see you and support you because not only because I like the music, but I like you, right? Whereas I'm going to rip down your posters. And, we used to get that all the time, right? Oh, we just went up and postered all day. Ian would go through all kinds of stuff with the staple guns and stuff like that. We'd get downtown. By the time we get home, somebody would be phoning us saying, hey, all your posters are in the garbage. They're in the garbage down the corner of King of James. I hope you guys didn't hope anybody was going to show up to the show, because they're not, because all the posters are all gone now. So I think, and sorry, I ramble. The way it goes with influences are, I think potentially everybody can kind of be seen as an influence at some point, as long as they're kind of spurring you on to something else, right? First show that I ever went to, first concert, was I went to go see The Who in Toronto. And I can't even remember who. Heart opened up for him, Jay Giles Band. And I went with my brother. And we imbibed a little at the Zellers across the street from St. Luigi's in Toronto. He wanted to park far enough away that by the time we got back to the car, I think he was going to be okay to drive. So I think probably end up in a Tobaco or someplace. Like we were nowhere near Exhibition Stadium at all. But that was cool. It was just the idea that, people are making music and there are, 50,000 people in this place and they were just digging what was going on. And it was great. And Heart were, as a young pubescent boy, man, those girls could sing and play guitar, and it was pretty freaking cool. And Jay Giles, like they were a great band too. So I think that's what really, that was it. It's like, oh, you know what? Music is awesome. And then, as I'd said earlier about the first punk rock show that I went to was to go see the Forgotten Rebels, and they were playing Orient Express in Burlington, which became Splash, which became like 100 other bars down on Service Road in Burlington, and they were quite good. I don't have one favorite show. Sorry. I will say that I did see Stiff Little Fingers twice. And the first time was in Toronto. And it was one of those freaking life-changing, unbelievable freaking events. Bruce Foxton was playing bass for SLF at the time. And he was the bass player for the Jam. And they were just so spot on, and the crowd was, it was like an English football game, like everybody was singing. It was unison. There was a true friggin' kind of camaraderie. Like it wasn't a pissing contest, old school punks, young kids, everybody was just into that moment. And the Jake Burns just he's amazing voice. If you're looking for that, it sounds just like the record. It sounds just like the record, but better. That's how good they were. So many years later, we had the opportunity to go see them again. They were playing Buffalo, and they were playing that place on Main Street. I can't remember the name of it, but you remember the name of it. But you're going to tell me under your breath, so nobody can tell. But that place, that venue down on Main Street in Town Ballroom. Great venue too, because it just kind of like dips down and everything like that. So yes, so much for my memory.
Should I edit that out or?
No, Christ, no. It's and I think this is the part of it, right? Is just as a complete aside, what this kid's doing here is documenting not only the past of the Hamilton punk rock stuff and everything, but this is vital. Like what is happening here is the recollections and the memories, so other people kind of pick up the mantle. So when the 15-year-old kid says, I want to find out a little bit about Hamilton history of punk rock or whatever, there's a starting point here. And you become that guy, right? You become the guy who provides that information. You're like the Hamilton Spectator for punk rock. Good, bad, or indifferent, right? But that's, anyways, I digress. Yeah, we saw SLF in Buffalo, and they were absolutely fantastic. Like, spot on, amazing. I wish that we could see bands like that come through more often. But as a complete aside, so one of the other great shows that we went to go see was Dropkick Murphys and Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. So little bit of a history with the Boss Tones. So we're at the show, and Dickie says, come back, have some beers with us. So we're watching. So we start talking to the guys in the Dropkicks, and I said, like, friggin' unbelievable. I think it was one of the early times they were in Toronto. So they got the bagpipe player and everything. Like, they're just going to town. And it was a phenomenal show. So what do we start talking about is, the Sick Boys played some, they just played some bowling alley in Chicago. Says, oh, the bowling. We were at that show.
Fireside Bowl.
Is that what it is? Yeah. So he starts telling me about, oh, we saw those guys. They're from St. Catharines, right? Yep. Yeah, we saw them and Stiff Little Fingers. And I said, you guys are playing bowling alleys? Little do I know, that's where we recorded our first album. But, it's, they're one of them anyway. So all that kind of stuff just kind of brings it back. And so sometimes the music's great, but it's everybody around, like that whole atmosphere. Because I think if you go see a band and everybody is into it at the same time, that just elevates it, right? Like, this is the greatest show I've ever seen. This is the greatest show I've ever seen. And that was pretty friggin' special, just to kind of watch those guys as they were ascending up. And they were good. Bosstones have always played a good show for me, never anything awful. I went to go see Mark Knopfler a couple of times, who was the guitar player in Dire Straits. He can play guitar. It's just from a standpoint of he can play, and he sings about as well as I do. So he's got a voice, right? It's that Neil Young kind of acquired taste thing. But he just plays, and he's a storyteller. And I think if you can get somebody on a night when they're playing and everybody's there, but the stories come out, and you kind of get a little bit of a sense of why those songs came into play. What was he thinking about when he wrote that song? What does that mean? Because you can get those songs that are very generic and where there's some ambiguity, right? Like, you might listen to a song and say, oh, you were talking about this, and then I'll say, no, I was actually writing it about this. Oh, really? Oh, I didn't get that. That's kind of cool too, right? Like, from a songwriter standpoint, to just get that sense that you've affected people differently. And I think when you can see a guy who's being a storyteller and playing and laying it all out there, it doesn't have to be technically perfect. It's just, you just have to have that energy and that stuff. So yeah, that's some of them have been more punk rocky, and other more kind of the showpiece, right? And I like, if you're going to spend some money and you're going to go, give me a show as well. Yeah. First band that I was ever in was, I worked at Zip Car Wash. Zip Car Wash was the punk rock car wash in the city of Hamilton. So there was a Cable 14 show where they did a battle of the bands. So there was me. I was screaming. Stu, who became the drummer for Dick Van Dyke's, he was the hype man. He was like the Rankin Roger. And we had another guy named Kenny Lambier. He was a guitar player. And we had Norm Davinsky, who was the drummer for Progressive Minstrels. And I can't remember if Frankie Viola, who was the first bass player for the Dick Van Dykes, was also in that little outfit. So the idea was that we were gonna put together this battle of the bands. They were gonna come in, put us on Cable 14, and we were gonna be rock stars. And they came, and because we worked at CFMU, we managed to get one of the lecture halls in Hamilton Hall. So we're not supposed to be in there full on punk rock. We just were in, and we play for them. And the girl almost started crying because it was so loud. She goes, "It's loud, and you're scaring me," because he was being a hype man. He was just going back and forth, and I was just yelling. So that was pretty short lived. Then I was in a band called The Difference with Danny Chaos and Rob Lindsay, who ended up being in, I can't remember if it was Modelin's 11. Rob bounced around. It was just a whole bunch of guys from Hamilton kind of high school punk bands, and we played a few shows. Probably the best show that we played was our last show, which usually is, we were supposed to be a part of the Armpit of Hamilton compilation that Andy Pappas put out, or the Armpit of Canada compilation, and we were supposed to be part of that. And we were scheduled to open for Death Sentence, who was this touring band. So there were some record people there, and the record people are going to be here. So I proceeded to get completely drunk, and somebody was giving my sister a little bit of aggravation. I could see him in the bar, so I asked him to stop from the stage, which, that's usually a pretty good indicator that everybody can see what you're doing, bud. And he didn't want to stop, so I picked up a draft glass. It just exploded off his chest. And then things got crazy. That was the beginning of the fun times. So that was the last show that we played, strangely enough, and we didn't get the record deal with Death Sentence as a record company, and I kind of packed it in for a little bit after that, and the difference. We played some good shows actually. We played with the Rebels a lot, and then I was in a car accident. So when I was well enough to kind of resume everything, Ian Modelon, he asked me to join up with this group that he was putting together. So I figured, okay, well, I'll give this a shot. So we practiced for a little bit, and we became the Wet Spots, and we played our first shows on. We played Devil's Night and Halloween in '87, and on Halloween we played 2 shows. We played with the Rebels, and we played with the Dick Van Dykes at Teasers. So we played at Teasers, and we had to lug all our gear down to Banisters because we were playing. So like walking down King Street, just lugging all our gear so we can go get in and set up. That was fun, and I think that was a good 7-year haul with the Wet Spots. We put out, I think, 3 albums, a couple of tapes, and we played a ton of shows and met a ton of people. And then after that ended, I got out of music for a fair bit of time. Like I would just kind of do one-offs with people. Just they needed somebody to go up and scream, and we'd do some covers at things. Buddies of mine were going to school at Mohawk, so like I think we did a couple of fundraisers or something like that. They just needed bands to come in. And then Glenn the Hamilton Kid asked me to do some stuff. And it was, it kind of felt like, okay, well, I can do this. Because when I got out of it, I got out of it. Like it was, boom, it was pretty immersive, and then it was, I can't do this. It was really frustrating for me to go to shows and see bands that I had decided were not particularly good. And it's like, you can't like that. Like, you need to like this. And as a kid, we were the ones that were kind of influencing the behaviors and the cultures and everything just by virtue of when you're up on stage. And like I say, I got a mic in my hand, man. I'm going to talk until somebody pulls a plug, and you're going to listen to me. And being out of that and understanding that these other people, they were being kind of led down the garden path, and there were a lot of bands that weren't good. Like, don't tell me you like that. You can't like that. That's garbage. But when we started playing again, it was just fun. And I think it was this kind of transition from the angry young punk to the more kind of, dare I say, kind of philosophical whatever, right? Like what I wanted to write about and what I wanted to do was, it was a little more kind of lyrically important and everything. I forgot about the late Jimmy Marvelous, which I was kind of doing during that time as well. Late Jimmy Marvelous was Steve from the Dick Van Dykes, Stu from the Dick Van Dykes, Craigie Golightly from the Inner City Maniacs, They were great. Like that was just like ska stuff, and that was all out of Toronto. We only played a couple of shows, and we put out a CD, which I'll remind me to give you a copy of that. It was probably the stuff that's really kind of showcased that I actually could write, and it was like a real confidence thing back. Like, you know what, I can write, and people like this stuff, and it doesn't have to be about drinking and stupidity all the time. It can be, you can actually write music and songs. And when Glenn kind of reached out to do this stuff for the Strummer Night things, it just like everything just kind of felt right. So, you know, then Ian comes calling again, as he's wont to do, and you know, Ian, Pete from the Wet Spots, and a host of other bands that he's played with, and Barney, and you know, Problem Children were like punk rock idols to me. So the idea that I could kind of play with guys that they were playing for fun, and Barney was like, oh my God, like he taught Dave Ralphs how to play bass, you know, like, and Dave's a friggin' great bass player. So Barney's like another level. And when we started playing, everything just kind of fell into place. It's fun. And I think it's, you don't have to be an angry punk anymore. You can be, you can rail against stuff, but you don't have to jam it down people's grills and get into fights with people. It's just, it's nice to kind of do it that way. And I will say, complete aside, I ran into this guy in my real life, and he says to me, are you in a band? I says, yeah, I used to be. He says, yeah, I used to come see you guys. And he's a bit younger than me. He goes, you know what? I always hated you guys. I said, oh, thanks, bud. You know, good to meet you too. You gonna help me or what? You know, my computer's broken. So he said, because you had the ability to stand up on your soapbox and tell everybody about everything, and you didn't. And I thought, okay, fair dues. Like that's your take on it. But you didn't know us. Like that wasn't what we were ever about. You know, again, I'm not going to jam it down anybody's grill, be super political about anything. You know, this is where we are. I like to tell stories. I like to sit, you know, as you will be well witnessed in the 3-hour epic mini series that we're putting together here. But it's just about telling stories. It's just about, you know, that maybe that moment in time. The stuff that I wrote with the Wet Spots, like as it progressed, and the stuff into Jimmy Marvelous, it's just storytelling, right? And either you like the story or you don't like the story, and that's cool. But it's stuff that kind of sits around in here, and I just want to get it out. And there's people that I meet, and I want to tell their stories, because when I meet them, they're super interesting, and I think somebody else might gravitate towards that story. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So the Letdowns have been going.ca, have been going down for, I don't even know how many years, man. Like, we can't figure it out.
10?
Oh, it's more than 10. Yeah, because we did basically every Strummer night in Hamilton. Like, I think we played the very first one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been. I'd say it's probably been before.
15.
Yeah, probably close to 15 years at least in one form or another. And one of the first shows we didn't even have. We weren't the Letdowns or the Letdowns.ca at that point. We played a show. It was the Sick Boys reunion show in St. Catharines. And we were as Bag of Hammers, and it was great because there was all this stuff about the Bag of Hammers. Wow, what a great band, and everything like that. And Steve, and I think it was Joel from Dynalone Records that said, "You don't even know who these guys are. Like you're thinking they're a new band. Like they've been, your parents used to come and see these guys, kind of thing, right?" So that was cool because it was just the idea that. Not a full reinvention, but the fact is that you can still kind of be vital, right? You can still kind of you can still kind of carve your own path. You don't have to tread out the Stay 19. Oh, play Stay 19. No, I can't. My kid ain't even 19, so I can't do that. So it's been a fun ride though, and I tell you the guys that I've played with, they're all pretty committed. They're all pretty committed to what they do. But I love the group that I'm affiliated with now, because everybody's friggin' committed, and they believe in it, and they just want to make good punk rock and roll. The craziest thing, one of the craziest things that I ever saw, we were playing a show at a place called The Other Side, which is now a cannabis store at the corner of Main and, I don't know, beside the old City Motor Hotel. Or not City Motor Hotel. There's another one, just where you come into this town. Horton, down there, just before Bay Street, anyways. And we just were starting to get this kind of real swell of people around us that would come out, and it wasn't just a regular crew. It would be like people from Mac would come to the shows, and people from out. There was a lot of people. This bar had a balcony around it, and the stage was over at this side with a big full monitor system, and it was friggin' awesome. One of the things that we used to do, everybody spray off beers and stuff like that, right? Woo! So they're doing that. So there's lots of beer flying and everything like that. And this friggin' Yahoo, poor bugger, decides he's going to scale the monitor thing. He's going to climb up. So now he's up higher than the balcony, because the monitors went up that high. And he's going to launch himself off, kind of like, I think it's like Jimmy and Quadrophenia or something, like he's gonna come down onto the crowd. So launches himself. We're playing. What I don't tell you is this place was not a punk bar. It was like a dance club. The floor is aluminum, so it's like shiny metal. With all this beer and everything like this, it was like a skating rink. So this dude launches himself off. People are trying to catch him, and it was just like, it was a WKRP episode where I thought turkeys could fly. It was hitting the bag, hitting the ground like bags of wet cement. It was just this poor bugger just boffs it right down. And all the people that were trying to catch him. So there was like twisted legs and everything everywhere. And thought, oh my God, like this cannot get any worse at all, right? Like this guy's hurt. There's no question. He's hurt. The people that were trying to catch him were hurt. And people are woo, woo. And the people up in the, ringing around, they thought it was the greatest thing that they were seeing. So, okay, they get him out of there. And then we've got another kid we affectionately used to call Concussion Boy. Chris Concussion Boy. He gets up on the stage, which is, the riser was maybe, 18 inches or something like that. So he's going to go do something. Falls. Nobody catches him. Boom! And it's just like, oh! And of course, he gets a concussion. Yeah. That was like, at the end of the night, it was like none of that happened, right? Like, these people all aren't hurt from this. No, they were all hurt from that. That was pretty friggin' crazy. One of the other, I think maybe for a show that I had gone to, was we'd gone to see a band play in Larry's Hideaway. We went to go see The Alarm, and they were playing in the big room, and something had happened with the sound system, so they moved everybody into the small room. So they play acoustic guitars with, they go electric, but they can play acoustic. So they did that, and they decided to go electric. One of the guys that I went with, he was pretty impaired, and he decided he was just going to take a nap in one of the monitors, because they're playing acoustic. Who's going to notice? We've been drinking since noon the day before. So he was pretty primed, so he fell asleep. When they turned on those, it was literally like you could see him shaking with the vibration of this bass, and he couldn't hear anything for days. It was like we'd be screaming at him like an old man. Hey Dan, you okay? What? Yeah, what? You talking to me? And I thought, that's pretty crazy, because that's kind of foolhardy stuff, but stuff you do when you're young, right? Stuff you do when you're young. What I like most, it's, and I don't even think it's evolved over time. I think it's for playing shows, right? But it's that whole, and I've talked about it, kind of ad nauseum. It's that kind of camaraderie. It's being part of something that's definitely bigger than yourself, and when you can be a part of that group, and I love the show. I love talking to people at the shows. I love talking to people after the shows. I love how people will say, this song, this day, this show influenced this because. I love that, and I think if we all had the chance to meet our rock and roll heroes and tell them, hey, you know what, when you wrote this lyric, that really affected me because boom, 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 boom. When I went to go see Joe Strummer play at this HMV thing, and he sat and signed autographs for hours and talked to everybody until everybody had left, and then he left. Like things like that, it's like, wow, like that was I was part of something special. For that moment, for that brief shining moment in time, I was part of something special. And I think the coolest thing about playing is you never know if you're going to be that part of that something special for somebody, right? When we used to play shows, and then we would do like sometimes we'd do like signings and talking to people afterwards, right? And there was a guy, and he'd said, I came from a hell of a long ways away to see you guys, but he said, my kid had picked up your album and he brought it home, and I thought, well, I want to see what my kid's listening to. And he said, coming to see you guys, I understand why he likes you. Like this guy was a man. Like we weren't men yet. And he was, but it was just like, I understand. So this is cool for my kid. This is cool for me. You guys are straight up good guys. And that's cool, and not everybody's got to like us. We've had conversations with people that absolutely despised us. But when you kind of sit and you can kind of talk and have that conversation, you kind of come to that common ground. Like, nobody's got to fight about this. Okay, you don't like this music. That's cool. So that is the absolute, without question, why I love doing it. It's cathartic. You're writing. You're getting your ideas out. You're having these conversations with people. But lugging gear into any place, eh? Any place. Yeah. Well, and that's it. Poor Petey. He's got to lug all the drums all over Hell's Half Acre. But what I didn't used to like was, I called it hurry up and wait. You got to load in at 4:00. You're going on at 11:30. We're going to sound check you at 9:30. So you load in. You can't do anything. Okay, we're going to go get something to eat. No, you can't leave the bar now. You're here. You got to stay because we don't have time. The sound man's coming in. I used to hate that, and I just think, if we could show up, load in, talk to some people, play, beautiful. So I used to hate that, and it wasn't even so much the actual loading of the gear, because sometimes it just becomes comical. There was a place that we played in Toronto, and we had to take the stuff up, the fire escape, the exterior fire escape. It was somewhere down off Queen Street anyway, and that was a GD adventure, is what that was. But you do it, and then we sit and we and we have a couple of glasses of pop, and we sit and we talk about the stories 20 years later and say, remember how crazy that made us then? Yeah, it's kind of funny right now because we're here to tell the tale. You know what my most useless talent is? This is what I'm going to tell you. My most useless talent is I probably dispense a whole bunch of stupid, random advice that means nothing to anybody until it means something to somebody. So I tell stories. That's what I do. I don't know if it's useless or not. A lot of people will come off and say, I don't know why you told me that. Many years down the road, and I think this is where I am. Not everything's useless. There was a guy named Arthur Anderson. I'll tell you, Arthur Anderson was a guy in Minnesota, and he believed that there was a job for everybody. There was an opportunity for everybody. You just had to find the right opportunity and the right person. So nobody's useless. And I guess in my altruistic punk rock way, nobody's useless. Nothing's useless. You can find a spot for it. My parents grew up in the war. You know, you learn that you save jars because, hey, you know what? I'm gonna throw that jar out. No, you might need it one day. You can put paint in there. You can do this. Don't throw out those old pants because you can. Nothing's useless. In punk rock, nothing is useless. So any gift that anybody has, if somebody can roll their eyes and twirl them like that, beautiful. Because maybe there's one day when you need to mess somebody up and you don't want to hit them, and you do that. Or you Chris Crash and you smack. Yeah, you think you're going to do damage to this eye? Ding, 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 ding. I'm coming for you. Or this is mine, where you can flush there, put the toilet seat down. Everybody's got gifts, right? It ain't useless. Somebody might think it's useless, but nothing's useless. Favorite foods in terms of Hamilton restaurants, and I will give the shout outs to the particularly East End crew. We'll start on Ottawa Street, and I'll just work my way down from Maine. Original Mike Subs, right? You got to go to Mike Subs, get a torpedo. Maybe if I'm feeling a little adventurous, I'll get a Rockefeller sub, but definitely a torpedo. Work a little bit further down, Simply Italian. It's not too far from Crash Landing, if you ever get the chance. Amazing pizza, great, local, they're Hamilton people, right? They're just making some pizza. Very good, very friggin' good. And when we used to play, especially downtown, we'd always find ourselves at Charred poutine, chicken poutine, just. It's great. It's full on Hamilton. It's on James North, just before Barton. Very good. If you ever get the chance. And any other food, I would be remiss if I didn't say that my darling wife is the best cook that I know by far. She can make anything, and I think probably favorite food that comes out of the house is any of the turkey dinners that we get, Christmas, New Year's, Easter, that kind of stuff. Family can get together, and it's just, we can all kind of come and hang out and eat and get our fill and go to, what's the name of the bakery? Oh my God, I can't believe it. Panda Sol. No, oh yeah, Rome as well. Panda Sol for the world's best pumpkin pies. So if you're thinking about going down to Houston Street, it's awesome there.